Good morning. Now that's the kind of encouragement that I like to hear for our youth leaders, some shout outs to say, yeah, to start the morning off right. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nadine, Gracia, and I serve as the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Trust for America's Health. And it's such a pleasure to be here with all of you this morning and to participate in the second annual Bloomberg American Health Summit, and to be here with such a wonderful panel, an inspiring panel who I'm going to introduce momentarily. And I've been backstage saying how others should be jealous because I get the panel with actually the youth leaders and someone who's really inspired these youth leaders. So we're in for really a great treat this morning. Before I begin, I just want to provide a little bit of context for our conversation. And you've been hearing certainly about some of the challenges that are facing our nation's youth. And when we think about adolescence, it truly is such an important period of time, such an important period of growth and development, a significant period of change. And as you heard, it's really a time in which it lays foundation for their future health and well-being. But the challenge is that for far too many of our nation's youth, adolescence is a difficult time, one in which they can also be overlooked in policies and in resources and in opportunities that our nation provides, and that they may be described as being at risk, or that if they're struggling in those teenage years, that it's too late to help them. But we know that that should not be the story of our nation's youth, because adolescence is also a time that's filled with great promise and opportunity. And so our goal and our work should really be on how we create and strengthen those conditions that foster promise and opportunity for all young people, so that all young people can really reach their full potential regardless, no matter what neighborhood they come from, no matter what life circumstances that they've endured. And so I'm excited to be with this panel because we're going to engage in a conversation and you are going to see them as truly an example of what can happen when we invest in our youth, when we provide them with opportunity, when we authentically engage youth and youth leaders, and when we understand that they have power in their voice to affect change. And this group is doing this right here in the city of Baltimore. So let me introduce this wonderful panel. First, to my left is Joni Hollifield, who is the founder and president of HeartSmiles, and you're going to learn more about the organization that she established here in Baltimore. Next to her is Jemira Queen. Jemira is a junior at Baltimore Polytechnic Institute and serves as a youth advisory board member at the Center for Adolescent Health. And next to her is James Gaither, who is a senior at Bard High School Early College, and also serves as a youth advisory board member at the Center for Adolescent Health. Please, let's give our panel another round of applause for being here this morning. So Joni, Jemira, and James, we've heard this morning people talk about, some of the challenges that young people face today and youth face today. I would love to hear directly from you, your perspective on what some of those challenges are that youth are facing today. We'll start with you.
Yeah. All right. Good morning, everyone. So I'm gonna give you two things, because if I gave you everything, we'd be here all night. So let me tell you, the first thing overarching is an identity crisis. I can sit here in this space in the hoodie and the sweats because I know who I am. And if anybody were to judge me based off of what I had on, then I know for a fact that says more about them than it does about me. Our young people don't understand that. A lot of them are walking around here looking for their purpose and their meaning on social media when that shouldn't be the case. I feel like if more young people understood who they are and really gravitated toward their purpose and their gifts, then that would, number one, solve a lot of the mindset issues that we have. And then number two is just the blatant disparity with access to opportunities and resources. My parents' income or social status shouldn't determine whether or not I have access to a good education. And unfortunately, in a poor community, that's what it is.
Jemira, how about from you?
Well, as youth, we face many different challenges, like living in a broken community, a broken city where everything around you is crumbling, and then with a combination of poverty and violence just on a daily basis. And as youth in Baltimore City, with the effects of mass incarceration, living with parents who are on drugs or just seeing it on a daily basis, it takes a toll on you. And then going back to school with the educational structure and how the lack of funding affects us in school. Like, I've personally been able to been involved in those issues hands-on, like living with a parent who actually was incarcerated at a time, and then also living with family members who are on drugs, and see how it has affected us. And then going to school where the learning environment is not really the norm of like how a school structure should be. And then just on a daily basis of going outside and just seeing someone on the corner maybe overdosing, hands-on gang violence, and then there are more corner stores who pass out drugs and pass out alcohol to youth and people on a daily basis. And that just feeds into the cycle as a whole in Baltimore City and beyond, in many different communities all across America. And it just affects youth in a way that just breaks them down. And then you think of two options: whether do you want to become better, or where do you start next? And then with the lack of resources, that's also a big challenge as youth.
James, how about you?
Like Jemira said, one of them is lack of resources, because the youth in Baltimore City, they don't have a lot of resources that actually help them through the things that they're going to, like mental health, the schools, like how happen with their homework, like that, and like what helped the school problem with how the grades are dropping, and also like giving them extracurricular activities to help them stay off the streets and have them doing something productive instead of them doing something that can actually harm their lives.
And then,
Yeah,
as James just said, also mental health. Mental health is not the norm in our communities, and it's not really discussed. So we go through those challenges on a daily basis, including the things I listed before, like poverty, violence, and having people who you're being raised by people who are recently incarcerated and already broken people, raising broken people, and then dealing with personal mental health issues also while trying to just get up each day, go to school, and just try to become the best version of yourself. And you don't have those core mentors and people around you and structure that is supposed to help you become the next step in your life. So like with those mental health battles, and then the lack of resources and the lack of mentors and core people, and then also having parents in prison and peers in prison, that becomes a big challenge as a whole, and it can just really make or break you, really.
So you've pinpointed some key issues and important issues, and I know what you do here is about solutions, right? And what can be done, what needs to be changed, and what can be fixed to address these issues. How do you approach that? What needs to be done, actually, to promote opportunity and promise for our youth?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we need more caring people who get it in these decision-making seats. People who actually have policy making, people who have policy, people who have power over policy need to make these decisions as if it was their child being affected. And I think too many times, just because it doesn't affect the person that's sitting across from our dinner table, we just make a decision that's more convenient, and people aren't really committed to working themselves out of a job, because poverty is this business. And as long as it's connected to a check, then the right decisions are never gonna be made. And then just within our local communities, more folks who are dedicated to doing the hard work that really involves your heart. And when I say hard work, I don't necessarily mean just getting your hands dirty, but really being able to be vulnerable and get your emotions dirty and building those relationships with young people that really transforms lives.
What really can really be done is provide resources and organizations that actually, first step is understanding the youth, building relationships with the youth, because you can ask the youth to do anything and you can get them in your program, but without you fully understanding and building a relationship with them, they're not really going to want to open up to you, or you're not going to be able to understand what they want and what are their goals in the future, because a person can come into your organization but are like dealing with many different battles at home. Like for me, my outlet would be going to a HeartSmiles Thriving Thursdays event every Thursday. Before we like sit down and get to the work and business, we reflect on the week and see how we're doing, what's the good fall, the downfalls and upsides of our week. Get to know your youth, build relationships and trust, and then have mentorship with your youth where they can just go to you for anything and just like understand them and actually listen to them. Don't just hear it, but actually listen and then reflect and see what you can do. Even if you're not working hands-on, just see what you can do, whether that just being a phone call, just checking to see how they're doing, or just give a platform for them where they can use their voice, because their voice is very powerful. And if you just give them the microphone, they can really change like the lives and just open a message that's just powerful. And just because they are youth, that doesn't mean that like they are not powerful. So just give them that opportunity to speak.
To piggyback off of what Jemira said, actually having someone who cares, because as a youth member myself, we may look like we don't care, but we actually do. And we actually need someone to be there to help us and care for us so we can go forward with what we're trying to do and actually have someone who's there to like tell us that we are okay, we're doing okay, and we're going to get through whatever we're going through. So to like basically encourage us to get through our struggles in life, and if we need help, they will be there to actually like help us through the way.
Joni, you had a very compelling reason for creating HeartSmiles, and would love for you to share what HeartSmile, what the story was of you creating the organization, and what work it does. And many people have been coming to you now about how to create youth advisory boards and how to effectively engage with youth leaders. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, the really short answer to that was that I grew up very, very poor, like so many kids in West Baltimore, but I knew I wasn't supposed to be poor. I knew I wasn't supposed to be living in an inhumane situation, rats, roaches, mice surrounding me and my siblings and my mom. And I didn't understand that education was my way out, so I stopped going to school, immediately put myself into the job market. But I was fortunate enough to have people who recognized my natural abilities for leadership. So I climbed the corporate ladder. I was fortunate enough to be in positions that I did not qualify for and became the first of many now in my family. Like I was the first to own a house. I was the first to actually move out of Baltimore City. So I actually hated Baltimore. I left with no intention of ever coming back because Baltimore was so mean to me. But then when a kid named Freddie Gray was murdered in police custody, and I saw the anger and the hurt rise up out of those kids through those riots, I got mad at them. I was angry, and I said, why didn't nobody tell these kids that the world is so much bigger than just West Baltimore? Why didn't nobody tell these kids that what they're doing, they're not hurting the system, they're hurting themselves and generations after them? Why didn't nobody tell them? So I did the dumbest thing I could ever do. I gave up my nice cushy career, went back to Baltimore with no knowledge of nonprofit, no knowledge of kids or community or anything, and just said, you know what, I want to give somebody what God gave me, and that was entrepreneurship and leadership, not as owning a business or having a title, but as an attitude, as a mindset, as a lifestyle. And I said, if I could just show one person that the world is bigger and that they could do something, then I would have done my part. And that's what I did, and I've been lucky enough to be able to not fall flat doing it.
Well, we thank God you did. Jemira and James, we have just a little bit of time left, but I'd love to hear, as young people, you could be doing anything with your time, your spare time outside of school, and you've chosen to be youth leaders and be on these youth advisory boards. Tell us what's motivated that and what you see as effective, really, in actually engaging youth authentically.
What really motivated me was seeing my surroundings and knowing for a fact that I wanted to do more. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to become the next person who can come back into the neighborhood who have experienced those things hands-on and help the next generation of young girls and young boys become the best version of themselves. What really motivated was just seeing on a daily basis, catching the bus to school, seeing people still sleep on the corner at night, and then going home to a household where it's just not the norm. So it really motivated me, and then my also interest in like college and different like HBCUs cultures. So I always knew I wanted to become like a college student, and I also knew I wanted to become a social worker. So that was just really my motivation. And then also wanted like daily also having mentors like Miss Joni or just my mentor, Miss Morgan, people who have just motivated me and told me that I am powerful. And just having those people just gave me so much motivation, and just getting up every day and just going to school, being an advisory board, and also having a side job also. So.
What motivated me was to actually get my voice out there and let it be heard, because I know people who feel as though that their voice are not heard, or feel as though no one actually cares about what they had to say or the things they had to do. So I wanted to be a platform for them to actually show them like your voice matters as a youth person, and what you do is effective to this community. And my mentor helps me keep myself calm and cool, collected, and let me know that what you're doing is great. You're helping the youth have a platform for themselves. As a youth person myself, to help them get their voice across, even if for the introverted people who don't feel as though their voice is actually heard, I'm basically a gateway for them to actually have their voice heard.
Wonderful. I know that our audience is likely, yes, thank you, please. As we work to close, I know our audience is likely looking for resources, and they want to know how you're doing it and how you're doing it effectively. How can they learn more about what you're doing at HeartSmiles? Joni, and I know you have some resources that you're working on in development that may be of service as well.
Absolutely, and it's crazy because so many people have been asking us how we've been able to create this thriving youth advisory board. The first thing is to go to Instagram and follow HeartSmiles MD. Like, that's the best way to keep up with us. But as a result of so many people asking us, we have started to develop a toolkit, and it's actually called the Engage model. And what this is going to do is it's going to share all of our best practices, all of our secrets, everything that we've learned on how to create not just a youth advisory board, but really this community of young people who are invested in the work that you do and who really want to be a part of what you do. This toolkit is not for people who just want to have youth sitting pretty to be able to say that we engage youth voice. This is for people who authentically want to build the relationships, to do the hard work, and to have that youth voice graduate to youth power.
Perhaps if I could just have one of you answer this final question, and we're going to show some images here. We're sitting in the city of Baltimore, and certainly in our hearts and in our memory is the late Congressman Elijah Cummings, who was such a champion of justice and really cared about our youth all across the nation, and especially the youth of Baltimore. And he came and visited you over the summer. Would love to hear what that experience was like, what words of wisdom, if you can close us out with what he shared with you, and how that affected you in the work that you're doing.
This one is important. Can we each take like 10 seconds?
I think we can take 10 seconds,
Okay,
yes.
10 seconds.
It was a very monumental moment for me. He spoke on a lot of strong, powerful things. He let us as youth know that he actually cared about what we was doing and how the things that we were doing was impacting our community as a whole.
Yes, the late Congressman Elijah Cummings, the way he spoke to us and actually like listened to us, he asked us a question and then he gave feedback on it and then just like literally listened to us, and you could feel the passion in his tone and his voice, and that he actually cared. For him to be a congressman who was also sick at the time, come back to a community and talk to youth just out of his really busy schedule, just really showed us that he cared, because he could have been doing anything, but he was right there present in the moment and actually engaging with us and feeling action, having a genuine spirit.
And he held my hand in private, and with tears rolling down his eyes, he told me, he said, "Joni, I see your love and care shining through your young people." And one of the young people he pointed out in particular was young Elder, who they are about to see in just a moment. And it was just so overwhelming for me to have someone who I looked up to be able to see my work through the people.
Ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking this truly inspiring panel. Thank you all for everything that you do. Thank you.
he has to say. So on behalf of everybody, I want to sincerely thank you for coming and giving us your time. And also thank you for coming to our graduation. Don't think we forgot that you came to that.
Yeah.
So just thank you for everything, and we are looking forward to keep working with you. Thank you.
Young elder.
Yes, sir, that's me.
Young elder, let me tell you something. This is what, you know, remember I said a minute ago, do the things that mean something to you? This means something to me. This means something to see our young people on a positive path and to know that you are headed in a direction that is going to blow the minds of the world. It excites me.
And now, a performance by Baltimore native Young Elder.
I'm still standing. They try to knock me down, but I'm still standing. Yeah, I got knocked around, but I'm still standing. 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 They try to knock me down, but I'm still standing. Yeah, I got knocked around, but I'm still standing. I'm still standing. I'm still standing, I'm still standing. See, I go through some things that nobody knows, but I gotta stay silent, gotta stay on my 10 toes. Nah, I ain't rocking ice, but at least my flow is cold, and I gotta keep on grinding, cause I told him I got goals. When you got two choices, you live or you die. Yeah, I come from a city where you grind to survive. The devil whispering in my ears, he been telling me lies. I know you thought that it was over, but I'm dead, you surprised. See, I will remain focused, I ain't never giving up, cause what I got is talent. Swear to God, it just ain't love, and I'm aiming for the top, so I'm never going back. And I'm stronger than that rose that grew up from out the cracks, cause I'm still standing. They try to knock me down, but I'm still standing. Yeah, I got knocked around, but I'm still standing. 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 They try to knock me down, but I'm still standing. Yeah, I got knocked around, but I'm still standing. I'm still standing. I'm still standing, I'm still standing. See, you don't have a clue how much time I have invested. Put my rhymes up on this beat, and I watch you just ingest it. Gotta keep my mind right, cause I know I might be tested. If the skill was contagious, this whole room would be infected. Cause this is more than just rapping, this is a passion. You want results, gotta take actions. Rappers be thinking to get a reaction. I'm staying focused, don't need no distractions. You wanna learn? Watch how I do it. Those are my words, just you don't do it. I stay on my grind, I don't make no excuses. Get out of my face, you being a truth. My truck so small, call it a dot. Said they done and you found they not. All that talking, you quiet on spot. You didn't be dirty, you thought I forgot. This is so easy, you're walking in the park. I'm at it all day, from night until dark. I'm a little dog, but I got a big bark. I'ma keep grinding till I make a mark. I'm still standing. They try to knock me down, but I'm still standing. Yeah, I got knocked around, but I'm still standing. 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 They try to knock me down, but I'm still standing. Yeah, I got knocked around, but I'm still standing. I'm still standing. I'm still standing. I'm still standing. There's no reason that somebody who looks like me should be standing on this stage and doing what I'm doing right now. But somebody gave me the opportunity. Somebody took a chance on me. Elijah Cummings said to me, always do what you're passionate about. And my passion is doing everything that I can to uplift the youth in Baltimore and beyond. So everybody in this room has the responsibility to do everything that you can to help the youth, because it's no longer about good and bad. It's about life and death. Thank you. Thank you.